Keshi. Hello everyone, my name is Tara Kutaki. I am from Zuni, Pueblo, New Mexico, and today I'm going to be sharing a video on how we make Zuni oven bread from our outside ovens. For this process, we're going to be needing the ingredients of flour, water, salt, yeast, a bread starter, eggs, and lard. For the material, you'll be needing bread paddles, a bread board, cloth, tree branches, a wooden stick, wood, tubs, serving bowl, knives, and forks. The process of making oven bread begins with a bread starter, which is frozen dough from previous cooking mixed with flour and eggs and warm water until it's a very nice consistency and is left overnight until the next day. Once the starter is ready, that's when we begin the process of kneading the flour into the dough, and we're going to do this until we get a really nice consistency such as this. And because it is very dependent based on the amount of women who participate on cooking days, it really depends on how much flour and how much ingredients we're going to be using. So because there is in this video there were more than 3 people participating, we had at least 2 bluebird flour bags used for this, and the beginning of this is actually with the starter dough, whereas this next new pot of dough is actually going to be used of just flour, salt, and yeast. So there are 2 separate types of dough that is being made right now, and this is because it's going to contain the texture of the sourdough, and not only that, it's because it's going to expand the amount of participation that is needed for all of this. So once both the dough are ready to go, this is when we split the dough in the amount of cuts that based on the amount of people who are participating. So at this point, I believe there were 5 of us participating, so we put the one dough, we cut them into 5s and fifths, and once we cut them into 5ths, that's when you have your own individual pot. You claim your spot and you press the dough, and you press the dough as much as you can. It hurts sometimes, it hurts your knuckles, but over time, when the dough softens, that's when you add lard, at least a handful of lard, and you mix it. Once you continue mixing the lard with the dough, it gets a little softer. You do it again. Once you do that one more time, you split it again in 5ths. So you cut it apart and you give it to the different groups again. You mix it one more time. You put it in the big pot, the big tub that it is served in, and voila! It is stuffed in a blanket, ready to go by the oven, and once the dough rises, that's when we can make the bread. As we wait for the dough to rise, my friend Kendra and her sister Shanna tend to the outside oven. As you can see on the left, she is gathering the branches that we are going to be needing for the brush, and Shanna is tending to the oven by adding the different wood chips and logs. And as you can see, it was very windy that day. It was a little bit hard, so this is where the women kind of joke to see if our aunties love us. If the fire is lit, then they love us, and if they don't love us, then the fire won't go out. But thankfully, their aunties love them so much that there was a fire outside, and so right now we wait for the oven to get hot. Once we do that, we tend back to the dough, and this is where we get to put the dough in a little smaller, more family convenient type sizes, and this is where we get to design the bread. But first, right now, they're kneading out the dough, so this is where they take out all the air bubbles, all the weird consistencies in there, and they place them on the table to where they're a little bit more softer. From there, this is where we get a little bit more detailed with the type of design of the bread that we want. And as you can see, it's very, very encouraged for young women to participate, because over time we're going to be taking on these duties and we're going to have to be taking charge. So you see my good friend Leilani participating, taking part of making bread, which is I'm very proud of. Very proud to see every time. But once the bread is made, this is when finally take out the ashes, which I couldn't really see because I was inside. But we are placing the bread on the bread doughs that you see, and she's using the bread paddle to put the dough in the oven. Very organized, very neat. As you can see, there's specific breads that go in first. As soon as the dough is placed into the oven, we have at least a 45-minute to an hour break, and we wait for the bread to harden. In some areas, sometimes the oven is a little less hot than other areas, so that's when we have to rotate the bread. Not so much, but at least every 45 minutes. And once the bread is nice and golden brown, that is when we check one final time. And to check, we usually use our fingers and we tap on the bread alongside. As you can see, if it's a little too soft, that's when we put it back in, or if it's ready to go, then it's good to eat. And once it is ready, then boom, pesto, you're done, and you get to eat it with these delicious meals like you can see before you. We have tamale paste, we have my auntie eating her oven bread in breakfast, we have it with pozole stew, and even having it as a snack for butter. A very special thank you to all of those who helped me create this video, to all of the women who have taught the different traditions, such as making oven bread. It is something that I truly hold close to my heart, especially because it's part of my identity of who I am, and something that I very much enjoy expressing to a lot of people outside of Zuni. So with that said, I hope you do plan to come to Zuni, and if so, I really encourage you to try Zuni oven bread, and if so, alakwa, thank you, and I hope all of you have a good day.